Hey guys, I found a Reddit post about the topic of death in video games and whether it should matter and have a little bit of consequence or not. Personally, a topic I find very interesting. Before we get into it, we just got to thank the sponsors of the channel, the patrons, and the YouTube members. Thank you guys so much. Let's go. All right, here we go. Death penalty in MMOs. I was thinking about the different penalties upon death in various MMOs, such as experience loss, item downgrade, loss of items and materials, etc. And I was curious what people think. And I really care about this topic. Thought it'd be good. So we're gonna do a little video here about it. Right off the bat, I think obviously there's a lot of variation to this, right? There's a lot of variable on what people like. You know, you've got people down here, like the very first comment is, this dude doesn't want penalties or anything at all. And then we've got a guy down here who disagrees and kind of feels the opposite. And I'm on this disagreeing with this and feeling the opposite. Personally, for me, like when death doesn't matter at all, there's no penalty to dying really at all. It feels like it trivializes content to me. You don't get the same feeling that you get while you do the same exact piece of content, because if you fail, it really doesn't matter. It's just like reset button, reset button, reset button. And you don't get like the moments of tension where you really care if you're gonna die, right? That's the thing. It's about care, right? The whole scenario could be exactly the same, but it just doesn't make you care about dying. Now, there's obviously a lot of variety here, even inside of doing some kind of a penalty, right? Like EverQuest 1 was super harsh. You know, all your items stay on the body. You have to do a corpse run. You lose a bunch of experience. Only a few classes could maybe res you and get that experience back. Maybe you have to find a special class to help you find your body or to recover it if it was in a bad spot where you couldn't remember where it was because there was literally not even a map either to help you get it back. But then you've got games like EverQuest 2, they really kind of toned it down. There is still penalty, right? Instead of losing experience, which has the potential to, say, make you D-level, which creates a lot of problems and is very discouraging. It can be upsetting, and the game let you do dumb stuff where you could D-level it yourself, like multiple levels. Let's say you bound yourself in a bad spot and you get in a death loop. Like, that's happened to people. You could lose a whole bunch of levels. So EverQuest 1 was incredibly harsh. EverQuest 2, it still matters, right? You get an experience like debt. And I've heard Ashes of Creation, they're talking about using a similar system so that you don't have the potential to downgrade and like lose a level, right? You couldn't actually lose your progress, lose a level. Instead, you get an experience debt, and this means you can't really progress further in your leveling until you deal with this issue. Now, I would say one of the things here is I think this system's also kind of good in a way where as you're leveling up, you kind of have this extra thing, you know, this extra challenge you're really worried about. And when you get to max level, you're at max level, you're not really needing to pursue and grind new levels, then it doesn't matter quite as much. EverQuest 2 also does some stuff though, where once you get max level, you can move your experience bar so that it's giving you alternate advancement experience instead to fill up these points. So it would still kind of matter there. It depends what kind of systems they go with, say in Ashes. But these are things that I think it kind of is a nice little medium ground. Doing an experience debt, I think, is an okay medium ground that you're, really casual people and people that are really worried about there being any kind of like a, penalty at all for dying might not even really notice it that much. But those of us that care and they still want death to matter, it does matter at least a little bit. I really want to hear other people's opinions on this though. Like what kind of systems do you think are good? Durability loss on items is kind of like okay, but it's not really that big of a deal. Usually you just go pay your couple silver or whatever, repair your items. The cost would have to get pretty like crazy for that to really matter. And then that would be very prohibitive to like newer players and economy stuff. And it gets impacted and all this. I don't really like the idea of it being items so much, right? Like dropping your items and such. I think Ashes has an interesting idea with the resource collection. And like when you die, you drop, right? You get a little bit of experience that, and you drop half of those gathered resources or whatever, scenario. Like it has an equation that it does based on whether you are in PvP comment or you just straight up failed in PvE, etc., on how much, resource you're going to drop. Not your actual items, but like your gathered resources. I think this is a really interesting system also. I'm not sure how it's going to play out exactly, but I think it sounds like an interesting system because, again, I just think like Steven talks about, it's risk versus reward. When there's no risk, the reward doesn't matter and feel as good. That's the thing. You can make the same exact game with the same gameplay, the same dungeon, the same goal to achieve. And in the one where death doesn't matter, you won't get the same levels of highs, right? That's kind of the way everything works, right? If you make things more standardized in the middle, like you can't have too bad of an experience, you can't also have the experience up here, right? It's highs and lows, or it's kind of like mediocred out. And I'd rather there be highs and lows because it's more exciting. That's what I enjoy. Really want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments. That's it.